All right. Good morning, everybody. Today we're doing lecture 10, one-step equations, part 1. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a couple problems from the problem set just to get you used to solving equations that we did back in Algebra 1. So we're going to do a few quick examples by isolating the variable. All right, let's get started. All right, to solve an equation, means to find the value of the variable, which is typically x, which makes the equation true. So let's do a really quick example that I have in the notes. We're going to do x minus 3 equals 2. X minus 3 equals 2. So right here, we have what's called an equation. And we know it's an equation because we have an equals sign, right? If it wasn't that, then it would be some kind of inequality, right? But we want to solve this equation for x. So what I want to do is I want to find the value of x that would make this statement true. What value would x have to be so that x minus 3 would equal 2? Well, the way we do this is we solve it by getting the x by itself. And what I want to do is I want to isolate x. I want to isolate the variable. So how can I do that? I need to get rid of this negative 3 right here. If I could just get rid of that negative 3, then the only thing that would be on the left side of the equation would be x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite of subtraction. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So when I add 3 to both sides, what happens? I get x equals 2 plus 3, which is 5. And right here, the minus 3 and the positive 3 are going to cancel each other out. So I just draw a line through them because essentially you're going to have negative 3 plus 3 equals 0. And I don't need to write the 0, right? So you can just cross through those two numbers and you can say x equals 5. That's going to be our answer. Now, once you find your answer, you're going to write it in the form of a solution set. So those are going to involve curvy braces. I put the number on the inside of the braces, and then I close it up. And this is what's known as a solution set. Now, we can check this by putting the number back in. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to change my color to red, and we're going to check this equation. Check. Okay. So I've got x minus 3 equals 2, right? I start off with what we're given in the problem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my answer for x. I know that my answer is 5, so I'm going to let x be 5 and see what happens. I get 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. I haven't changed anything about it except letting x be 5. And now I know that 5 minus 3 is going to give me what, Coach? What's 5 minus 3? It's going to be 2, right? And then I get 2 equals 2. Check. So if the two sides are equal, that means that your solution really does answer the equation. X equals 5 is going to be the answer that you choose. But when you're doing your classwork, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to show your work for each problem, and you're going to want to check each problem. So each one that we do today, we're going to do both of those. Okay, let's look at some problems from the problem set and we'll go from there. But I'll leave this up there for just a minute, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Okay. So if you're given subtraction first, notice how we added the 3 to both sides. But if you're given addition first, you're going to want to do the opposite of addition, which is what you want to subtract from both sides. And that's what we're going to be looking at on the next slide. Okay, let's take a look at the problem set. And I'm going to do all the evens. All the evens. Okay, so number 2 says 0 equals 18 plus k. Right? So I'm given this equation. I want to solve for the variable. The variable this time would be k. I want to get k by itself first, so I want to isolate it. I have 18 plus k, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the opposite of adding, which is subtracting. And the way to get rid of a positive 18 is by subtracting 18 from both sides. So notice what I do to one side, I have to do to the other, or it's not going to work. So what happens when I subtract 18 from both sides? Well, the k hasn't been canceled out, so I just bring that down. The 18 minus 18 are going to cancel each other out since they're just going to give me 0. And then on the other side of the equal sign, I have 0 minus 18. So coach, what is 0 minus 18? Negative 18. That's right. So that's going to be my solution set, negative 18. Okay, so now I want to check my work to make sure that it's right. When I check my work, I always start off with the original equation that they gave me. I always start off with the original, and that was 0 equals 18 plus k. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my answer, which was negative 18, and I'm going to put that in for k. So I get 0 equals 18 plus negative 18. Does that work out? In fact, it does, right? Because we have a positive 18 plus a negative 18, which is just 0. So I get 0 equals 0, check mark, and I'm done. Okay. Let's skip on down to number 10. This one's going to be a subtraction problem. So I have n minus 9 equals negative 10. N minus 9 equals negative 10. So what do I have to do here? Well, for this problem, notice that I have n minus 9. So to get n by itself, I've got to get rid of that negative 9 somehow. And how am I going to get rid of that negative 9? Well, I'm going to add 9 to both sides, right? So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. What that'll do is that'll cancel out that negative 9 on top, because the variable n is going to come down first. The negative 9 is going to cancel out with the positive 9. And then everything is going to show up on the right side of the equation. And that's just going to give me negative 10 plus 9, which is negative 1. That's my answer. So I put that in what's known as a solution set. I close it up. Okay, so let's check our work. And I'm going to be checking to make sure that you are checking, right? That's kind of a double word, right? I'm going to be checking your checking to make sure that you are checking the equation that needs to be checked, right? So when we check, we always start off with our original equation that we started off with. We have n minus 9 equals negative 10. And all I do is I take my answer and I put it right in here for n. So I get negative 1 minus 9 equals negative 10. On the other side, I have negative 1 minus 9. I can simplify that to negative 10. So I get negative 10 equals negative 10. Good job. So that's how I know that value of the variable negative 1 is actually going to be my answer, because I know that when I put it back into the equation, it all works out. So that's number 10. Okay, we're going to try number 16 next. Number 16. Okay, now for number 16, this is also a subtracting equation. I have a minus 18 equals negative 38. Negative 38. And what I want to do with this is I want to get a by itself, so I'll know what number a has to be to make this true. So to get a by itself, I would need to get rid of everything on the left side except for a, which means I've got to get rid of this negative 18 somehow. How do I get rid of a negative 18? I do the opposite operation of subtraction, which would be addition. So I'm going to add 18 to both sides and see what happens. So I add 18 to both sides, I draw my line, and now I'm ready to work the problem out. The a is just going to come down, right? That's my variable. And the negative 18 and the positive 18 are going to cancel out to give me 0, so I don't need to write those. The next thing I do is I bring down my equal sign, and then I work on the right side of the equation. So everything shows up on the right side now. I have negative 38 plus 18. Doing that in my head, I get negative 20. Negative 20. That's going to be my answer. So I put it in my solution set. Okay. Let's go ahead and check our work. So I know that a has to be negative 20 for this whole equation to work out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my original equation that they gave me in the first place, a minus 18 equals negative 38, and I'm going to let a be negative 20. Why did I put a right there? That's not good. That should be a negative 38, right? Okay, so I know that a has to be negative 20. That's the answer that I got, at least. So I'm going to check it. Put in negative 20 for a, but keep everything else the same. So I'm still going to have minus 18 equals negative 38. And hopefully it'll all work out in the end. At least I hope it does. Negative 20 minus 18, that's going to give me negative 38. So I get negative 38 equals negative 38. It actually works. So that's how I know my answer is definitely going to be negative 20. So negative 20 is going to belong in the solution set. Okay. Now the last one that I wanted to do was number 22. Number 22. And I'll do that on the next slide. Number 22. This will be the last one I do today. So 22 says negative 19 plus k, or whatever variable you have, is equal to negative 36. Negative 36. So I have negative 19 plus k equals negative 36. So what I want to do first is I want to get the k by itself on the left-hand side. Well, how do I do that? Well, I've got to get rid of the negative 19 somehow. How do I get rid of a negative 19? You would have to add 19 to both sides, right? So I'm going to add 19 to both sides to get rid of that negative 19. So when I do that, what happens? The negative 19 and the positive 19 cancel out for good. I bring down my variable, and then everything else is going to end up on the right side of the equation, where I have negative 36 plus 19. So negative 36 plus 19, that would be negative 17. Now, 36 is a big number, and it's negative. So it kind of makes sense that my answer would still be a negative number, right? I'm taking a big negative number, I'm adding a smaller number to it. So your answer is still going to be negative 17. And I put that in my solution set. Okay, so let's check it and make sure it works. So I started off with negative 19 plus k equals negative 36. I'm going to let k be negative 17 and see what happens. So I have negative 19 plus negative 17. I put that in parentheses because of the negative. I don't want to get that confused with the plus sign. And it should be equal to negative 36. So I've got a negative 19 plus a negative 17. When I put these two negative numbers together, I'm still going to get a sum that's negative. So I get over here negative 36, and over here I have negative 36, so it all works out. Okay, and that is my answer, negative 17. There is no other number that would actually work in this equation if it wasn't negative 17. And we know that by checking. So for your classwork, I'll talk about that on the next slide. So what's going to be due on Sunday? You're going to have 2 assignments. You're going to have your equations classwork. I want you to do all the adding and subtracting today. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be doing all the multiplying and dividing. And then the last assignment that you need to turn in on Sunday is going to be the equations quiz. Okay. And that is it. Class dismissed. If you have any questions about today's lecture or any questions about the classwork, you're free to stay after and ask questions. Just go ahead and put them in the chat box, and I will be getting with you shortly. All right? I hope everybody has a good day, and I will see you on Wednesday. Have a very mathematical day.